Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there, having yourselves a fantastic start to your Tuesday. A great week out there so far, and I certainly appreciate you folks joining me as we try to figure out what's going to happen weather-wise for today. Expecting a more active day today compared to yesterday, and even more active day tomorrow, probably compared to today. So we'll talk about that in tonight's video. I should have a video unless something comes up, but all plans point to me making a video this evening. So stay tuned, especially if you're in the Ohio Valley, areas of the Great Lakes region. I mean, there's already an enhanced risk, level 3 out of 5 for day 2, which would be for our Wednesday for tomorrow. So we'll break that down tonight. We'll even talk a little bit on the tropics, what I'm seeing. But we're going to talk about what's going to happen today in this morning's video, as we always do in the mornings, and appreciate the support. Appreciate y'all bearing with me with yesterday morning's video. Yesterday was a tough day, even with a video. Had one of the busiest days at work that I think I've had in quite some time. Kicked my butt. But the ending of the day was much better than the first half of the day, so that's always good news. And I just try to always make the best out of it, even though it's a rough day. It's not a rough life, and I think we all should understand that and know that, and I think most of us do. So with that being said, we'll talk about some severe weather for certain areas of the country. Really, two big areas I'm watching. And we'll get you guys on your way. If you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. Appreciate the successful July so far. A few more days left in July, but it's been a very successful month. It's going to end up being even more successful than June. So thank you all for everything. So water vapor loop, let's see if she'll work. I did test it and it is working. So we're good to go. We got the little widget thing over here working. So we can actually draw on this thing now, which I've been really wanting to do. So we have some moisture trapped underneath this ridge that's kind of spinning down here, if you will, kind of some monsoonal moisture down here in the desert southwest, which is not totally unusual this time of the year. So just dealing with these pop-up showers and storms that we'll be dealing with this afternoon, this evening down here in the southwest. We'll talk a little bit about that. But this ridge is pretty much stationary right now. It's going over this entire region all the way up into Canada, and then you get to the east side of this ridge, and then you're still dealing with a little bit of troughing in the east, but this will be eventually replaced by this ridge that will broaden out. It will shrink in size as far as kind of north to south, but it will broaden out and really affect the northeast before what I think is going to be a pretty powerful cold front. Maybe this weekend for the northeast, it's really going to cool you back down. I think you'll heat up big time in the coming days, and then you'll cool down rapidly this weekend, but we'll talk about that here in the coming videos. But we'll watch for an impulse of energy right into here. That will bring some strong to severe storms to the mid-Atlantic, and then we'll watch for a piece of energy right into here. There's already some showers and storms across the plains right now. That will bring a chance for strong to severe storms in this region. And then we'll watch as another piece of energy, as in tomorrow. Don't want to get too deep in tomorrow. We'll talk about tomorrow a little bit towards the end of the video. We'll watch a piece of energy that will get into this region right in here in general and spark some severe weather in this area. So that's kind of what's going on based off water vapor loop. I think the south will be pretty quiet today, just typical pop-up summer activity. But let's talk about what's going on right now per radar. We have a complex of, I would say, showers and storms, but nothing severe right now going through areas of Nebraska. You can actually see what's going on pretty well. You see these showers, maybe areas of heavy rain moving through western Montana, kind of taking more so that southwest to northeast track, and then it comes all the way up into Canada, and then it rounds off, takes more of a, I would say, a west to east path, and then it begins to shrink back down and head back southeast from the northwest. We call this a northwest flow, and then it comes all the way back down, and then we get more of a flow back out to the southwest to the northeast. This is just typical buckles in the jet stream. Nothing totally unusual with this at all. We got an area of showers and maybe a little bit of a rumble of thunder moving out of Canada into northern Minnesota. Area of heavy rain in areas of PA. The models did not get this great, I can tell you that, because, when we talked about this yesterday morning, it was showing some rain that you were supposed to be waking up to in West Virginia, but this is more so in western PA this morning instead of West Virginia. But I'm not sure what happened overnight. Maybe this went over portions of the West Virginia. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not sure if it did. Let me know what you're seeing in West Virginia. Outside of that, not too active as far as flash flood warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings, things like that. So let's talk about this, the Storm Prediction Center for today. We do have this marginal risk that we do watch out for that extends all the way from a very small section of eastern Nevada, goes across northern Utah, including Salt Lake City, Yellowstone National Park, and western Wyoming, all the way up into basically the heart of Montana. But so we'll watch this area and then this area. Okay, could get pretty active for some pretty highly populated areas like Washington, D.C., Baltimore, even up to Philadelphia, New York City, Boston. Even though you're only under the marginal risk, you could get active today also. But there's a very small little area right here, the Delmarva region, okay, where Delaware is, Maryland, and portions of Virginia, even extreme southeast PA, and then southern sections of New Jersey that has an elevated chance. So you got that slight risk level 2 out of 5 for severe weather. Then you got it in this region right here as we watch a piece of energy that rounds the upper portion of this ridge, and we will probably have some sort of mesoscale convective system that eventually gets going after a multicellular kind of setup early to midway to maybe even the later part of this afternoon. This will grow up scale, and then we'll watch the potential for a nasty line of storms that might move through this portion right here. There's a slight risk, level 2 out of 5. Tornado risk below 2% everywhere as of right now. And I will tell you, a day like today is a great example of things could uptrend. We could, suddenly get an enhanced risk. If we do, it'll probably be for this area right here for wind. But for now, just a slight risk as of 7 a.m. when I'm making this video. A very low chance of a tornado. Can't rule it out, though. The winds, just the general 15% risk of winds in each of these yellow areas within 25 miles in any given location. That means there's a 15% risk of winds exceeding 50 knots or higher, which in mile per hour readings is 55 to 60 miles per hour. Hail threat, got the 15% risk also. So I will tell you, you're going to get hail with some of these storms right here in the plains. But I would watch out if you're in the Delmarva region, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, like those regions, Dover, Delaware, Salisbury. I believe that's how you pronounce it there in Maryland. Even the Fredericksburg and Virginia area. I think that these storms, with the lapse rates, it certainly supports some hail. I think you're going to get some hail in some of these storms today in areas of the Mid-Atlantic and the Delmarva region. So do not let this catch you off guard. We'll break this down a little bit more extensively here in a second. Flash flooding issues. We do have a slight risk, so I typically do show it when we do have a slight risk, but it means we do have at least a 15% risk of flash flood guidance being exceeded here in the Delmarva Mid-Atlantic regions, right in here, right up the I-95 corridor of these bigger cities of, like I said, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, household names as far as cities in the U.S. Watches and warnings. Heat advisories extend all the way up into Montana. Excessive heat warnings in the southwest, but this ridge, just continues to pump up. It's stationary right now. It will flatten out, but will still affect a large portion of the country here in the coming days. I think it'll get very hot again here in the southeast, most likely this weekend, where we could have some of our hottest weather of the summer here in the southeast. Like I said, we'll talk about that here in the coming days also. But heat advisories are just kind of scattered and smothered about. They're not really... there's obviously national weather services that disagree with certain areas, but just because you don't have a heat advisory, that don't mean it's not going to be hot. You guys know that. So the orange is the heat advisories. This hot pink color is red flag warnings, getting kind of dry. And then you got the excessive heat warnings down here in this dark pink color, or purple color. So National Hurricane Center update. So this is new. This is a reason why it's a great idea. Yeah, I know social media can be very toxic. I understand that, guys, but I'm very active on Twitter, especially. Not as much Facebook, which I know more people probably have Facebook over Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter, especially when the weather gets active for our folks in the Southeast. Of course, I'm biased towards the Southeast. It's where I live, but as you guys know, I talk about everywhere else too. When there's a hurricane threat, a winter storm threat, I get very active on Twitter to the point where I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I'm typically one of the first people that will give you updated information. But there's a guy that I follow here locally in the Carolinas. He called this. He said, watch this little disturbance off the southeast coastline, and sure enough, there is now a 20% risk of a little small system. It's just a weak trough of low pressure just outside the Bahamas, just south, east of the Bahamas, that could develop. Just a 20% chance to develop in the next 7 days. But even if it does, guys, do not worry. If you're vacationing along the southeast coastline, I think the most this is going to do, at most, is bring just some summer showers and storms, and might maybe enhance the rip currents. I doubt that. It's just not a big deal. There's probably storm systems on land, like complexes of storms, that are more powerful than what this little system is out here. We're still watching this down here, but it is not going to develop, guys. Today it'll bring just showers, some storms, some gusty winds to the Lesser Antilles. Let's talk about the southeast. Florida, you will get that flow off the northeast Gulf of Mexico that will kind of drift into the north central Big Bend areas of Florida. So those same areas will see some showers, even some storm action today, and not as widespread as yesterday. Could get some additional pop-up activity across the entire peninsula of Florida, typical summer type stuff. And then we'll get some pop-up activity, literally popcorn activity, in the Carolinas, even areas of Georgia, maybe even back as far west as Alabama, maybe even across the mountains of Tennessee and Virginia and North Carolina. But the higher activity will be up here, which we'll discuss here in a minute. But cannot rule out some pop-up activity here in the Carolinas, and I'll even throw the Carolinas a bone here. And here they are. This is exactly the definition of just very weak flow aloft that supports just enough oomph in the atmosphere for some pop-up showers and storms. So it's going to be one of those days where you look at your phone apps for the weather, and the chances for rain is going to be very, very low, like 10-20% risk, but you never know. This is kind of one of those days where it can pop up and it's raining in your neighbor's yard, but it's not raining in your yard. This will be a classic day of these. These are these pulse storms that kind of pop up and then they choke themselves out within 30 minutes, and then the sun's back out 30 minutes later. So these will pop up. Could be a little bit more widespread in certain areas, but there won't be much flow with them. I would say they would pop up probably around mid to late afternoon, kind of drift around. You never know. You could get a strong to severe thunderstorm out of one of these. You really can. Microbursts are always the biggest threat with these, and this basically never been a microburst. It looks like a Category 3 hurricane for like 30 seconds. I mean, they can blow down trees and they come out of literally nowhere, and they're very dangerous. But that's the biggest threat today, and then after that we're done. We'll get into the overnight hours and it's quiet. It's all about the Northeast, and I'm not leaving you guys hanging definitely in the Delmarva. Give me a second and I will discuss that. The rest of just taking a broad look at what's going on in the Northeast today, you will have definitely enough flow for storm development. I think we'll have a chance for strong to severe storms as far north as Maine today, across central Maine. But I think that definitely the best forcing for storms in general, the best thermodynamics and the kinematics that will support the forcing for the storms will be right here in this region. And here they are firing up around mid-afternoon. They'll blast through, and by the time we get into the late evening hours, I think we're still dealing with some lingering showers and storms in Delaware, but outside of that, pretty quiet. Zoomed in look at what's going to happen today in this region based off the HRRR model. So we'll get this rolling. We get to about 2 p.m., not a whole lot going on. We get some storm activity beginning to look like it's firing here in southeast PA, maybe around the Reading area, Philadelphia region. And then bang, you go one more hour around 3 p.m. It looks very active, potentially in eastern PA, storm popping up in Delaware. So, in general, we look at this model, guys, and we don't say it's exact science on a conclusion on what's going to happen. What we do know is this will be the kind of the focus area for showers and storms. We'll go to 4 p.m. and it looks like it's pretty active. Even got some storms just outside, just west of New York City, a storm popping up in Connecticut. Some storms here in the Delmarva region, even some storms firing up in northern VA. But I think the storms in this region right into here, and in fact, I would not be surprised if they extend the slight risk a little bit further north into New Jersey one bit on the next update, maybe making it all the way to the New York City area. But, there's a good chance, you're going to have at least storms around in the New York City area around your rush hour, around 5 p.m., everybody heading home from work. So expect the chance for some storms around that region, but anybody you see on this map has a pretty good chance of storms really for this area. Once you work your way a little bit west into West Virginia, Western PA, and Southwest Virginia, the chances for storms certainly drop off significantly. But, we're getting into 7 p.m., still storming in areas of Washington, D.C., Baltimore potentially. And then look, you got one big storm popping up right here. This is around 8 p.m. right here in southern areas of New Jersey, northern sections of Delaware. And you just got to watch this. I think we'll finally get rid of all of it maybe an hour or so after midnight. But, we'll go back through this one more time. Storm pop up around early to mid-afternoon, flow through this entire region. I think it'll be the most active around the 5 to 8 p.m. time frame for Maryland, northern VA, the Delmarva, Delaware, New Jersey, eastern PA, New York City. And then you cannot rule out, in fact, it will happen. There will be some stronger to severe storms in southern New England, which I'm talking about Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Mass. I think that we could get some storms around the Boston area, anywhere right around rush hour. It's quite possible today. I definitely think it's likely going to happen with this little mid-level pulse of energy riding the base of this upper trough. And you look at the kinematics, you can see the flow. You see how these kind of pressure gradients come down like this. They move down out the northwest. They get kind of zonal very briefly, and then they jolt back northeast. That is this trough digging down. And then you see the more buckles you have in this lines. That is basically pulses of energy along this trough. And, I hate when it does that. Here we go. About to get into motion here. And you keep this in motion and right into here where you have just enough flow. You see, you got 20, 30 knots of mid-level flow right into here. That is the little belt of kinematics right into here. That's going to support enough forcing in the atmosphere for some storms. And it goes right over the mid-Atlantic, all the way up the I-95 corridor, all the way into eastern Maine. Okay, so you look at the 500 millibar flow out there. It supports what's going to happen today very well. It really does. And that's why you don't have much storm development going on in Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina. It's because there's very, very weak flow aloft. And, the best you're going to get is just some pop-up activity. So, I always try to go into the science of everything. I think it's important for people to understand how complex these setups can be. But you look at a thermodynamic, which is the Cape, and I think it'll spike around mid to late morning. You'll have Cape values rising over 2,000 joules per kilogram mixed layer Cape. And this will float around the mid-Atlantic region. And then the storms will form and eat up all this energy in the atmosphere. And then obviously it weakens. But, you could get another spike in Cape again sometime late this evening right down here in this region. And, you could get a few severe storms here in the Delmarva region late into the evening. It's quite possible. Rainfall with this. There is a slight risk of excessive rainfall being met. 1 to 2 inches of rain is possible in some of these areas, especially if you get hit by a storm over and over again. But, it really likes this area of kind of the intercoastal regions of Maryland, Delaware, up to New Jersey, and southeast PA, even a little area here, and southern areas of New England. But it likes this area as the epicenter of maybe somebody getting as much as 2 inches of rain. Not everybody, but, that might be one of the higher readings. But the rest of the New England, I think you could get some scattered storms as far north as upstate New York and the Finger Lakes region too. You guys could get some storms today too. Don't want to ignore you folks. And even as far back east as west as central PA. But you're probably going to get some storms up here in Maine today too. I would say Waterville, Lewiston, Brunswick, Portland, you guys could see some storms today. I mean, even in Bangor, you guys some storms. Even up to Caribou, some storms are possible. Strong to severe also, and then you lose the daytime heating, and then they're done. South Central U.S. will be one of the quieter areas of the country today. You're kind of under the influence of the ridging, trapped under this ridge, if you will, and just not a whole lot going on. You will get some scattered showers and even some storm activity, but I think this will be more so showers, some downpours. And pretty much anybody in Colorado has a chance to see it. Same thing with New Mexico. You will see this little piece of energy flies through. And then we'll watch out as some storms are possible later this evening in western Illinois, maybe northern areas of Missouri and southern areas of Iowa as they work their way through. But, you get your 30 seconds of fame here in the South Central U.S. There's not a whole lot going on, just pretty hot. stagnant airflow. You're just being influenced by this ridge of high pressure. So not a whole lot going on in this area. The north central U.S. is a different story, especially in the western portion of this forecast right here. We get into just after lunchtime, and I think we're going to get some showers, maybe some storm activity around the International Falls area, northern Minnesota, the northern half of North Dakota. And then, as this piece of energy kind of surges down from Canada, I think we're going to get some powerful storms to get going here somewhere, I would say in the eastern Dakotas. And I'm going to fly through this really quick. Everybody else, I think some rain will move into the UP of Michigan. And I'm going to zone into that severe weather threat here in a second. But these severe storms will move eventually. More will form in South Dakota, but they will surge through Minnesota probably late afternoon, more so the evening time frame. Might even affect the Minneapolis area. Trying to figure out exactly the geographical region these storms will flow through will prove to be difficult today. But these will make their way through and check out this bowing of this line. And that is concerning because this is floating around the Minneapolis area. And look what time it is. I mean, it's around 11 p.m. This is around midnight Central Time. So this is kind of late. This is working its way through. So, we take it all the way to the morning time frame Wednesday morning. I think we're waking up to a lot of rain activity in Wisconsin, areas of southeast Minnesota, maybe even northern Illinois. Some heavier rain is possible also up into the UP of Michigan that we're waking up to. But most of the day in this region will be quiet. It's just once we get into tonight, that's what we have to watch. But zooming into the severe weather threat, I think like I said, some strong storms could make their way out of Canada. It shows them kind of weakening as they get closer to the International Falls area around late morning, early afternoon. But it's really this area right here that we watch. And let me get my old Google Maps ready. But the Grand Forks area, Fargo region, be careful. Mid-afternoon, strong to severe storms could make their way through. Large hail, damaging winds. The biggest threat cannot rule out a tornado. But, look how highlighted the color gets on this run of the HRRR model. It's around 5 p.m. These look significant. They do. In eastern and far eastern areas of North Dakota. Okay, you keep this going, and, you got to watch out for, the Fergus Falls area, Alexandria, this entire region right here, and right here in western areas of Minnesota. But some storms are firing back here. Back here also. Back here, sorry about them kids if y'all hear them in the background, they're arguing. But some strong storms are firing also back here in South Dakota. Brookings, Sioux Falls, Mitchell, even watch out in Aberdeen. I think that's how you pronounce it. There's some strong to severe storms that could pop up right on top of you. And this is right around 8 p.m., so you're getting closer to around when the sun's setting. And you keep this in motion. These could be more so attached, but there could be two really big areas to watch for. One in South Dakota, one in Minnesota. And there could be another area still up here in North Dakota. It's a tough one to figure out today. And I think these storms could be worthy of an enhanced risk. It's just trying to figure out where to put an enhanced risk. So this is around midnight. You still got storms flying down the southeast portion of South Dakota. Watch out just south of Sioux Falls, around the Sioux Falls area. And then, you go over here to Minnesota, the Minneapolis area. The St. Cloud, you guys could be impacted maybe just before midnight. Watch out for some storms in Minneapolis right around midnight, give or take an hour, guys. It's going to be tough, but I'm telling you, late into the night, this area of storms looks dangerous. So you got to watch out, and then this will eventually make its way through southeast Minnesota. So this will get going in Dakotas midway this afternoon, make its way into Minnesota early to mid-evening. Some more storms will fire up in South Dakota. But, of course, as you know, this model guidance is an exact science. And, I know I didn't mention Nebraska, but I think you're going to get some strong to severe storms here in central Nebraska also, probably around the evening time frame going forward. So be careful in this region today. You could get some damaging wind gusts, some large hail, definitely possible. Western U.S., bang, this moisture pops up right underneath this ridge, kind of this monsoonal moisture, and this will just pivot around kind of in a circle as it rounds this big old H ridge of high pressure. And, right here in the Four Corners region, these showers and maybe even some storm activity gets going in Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, northern Arizona, and just flies around. Could get some stronger storms again just south of Tucson, right here in the Mexico-Arizona border. And these will fly around. And, there is a marginal risk that kind of slithers its way kind of right here in the Rockies. So, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a stronger storm or two, maybe even severe storm right here in central Montana a little bit later today. The storms could be more widespread here in eastern Idaho. We'll see what happens. But I would say as far as widespread rains, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico, and Arizona is definitely the states I would pay attention to. So temperatures, 70s, 80s for the Northeast. I think it'll get closer to 90 along the I-95 corridor. 80s into Virginia. Widespread 90s in the Carolinas and the Southeast. A little bit cooler in the Ohio Valley, just the 80s. And then it's really heating up across the Midwest. Widespread 90s, upper 80s. Widespread 100-degree readings as far north as maybe southern areas of Nebraska. High plains will be hot again today. Maybe not quite as hot as yesterday, but 90s certainly reaching all the way up into Canada and eastern areas of Montana, and then the western and central Dakotas, and very hot in the southwest. But you see a little bit of a troughing dipping into the northwest where temperatures are cooling back down. It's definitely much cooler than what you've seen over the last few weeks in this region. You're getting back down to the 80s, just even into the lower elevations, but the higher elevations, just 50s for highs. Just depends on how high you are up. Tomorrow will be a big severe weather day, guys, and we'll discuss this a little bit more detail tonight, but there is an enhanced risk already up for northern Indiana, northwest Ohio, and then southern Michigan. So it's going to get quite active, and we can't just ignore everybody else too. You have a slight risk that goes from central Michigan, includes Chicago, includes Milwaukee, includes a large portion of Illinois, all the way down to just about Evansville, Indiana, Columbus. So active day tomorrow. The tornado risk is already at a 5% risk in the enhanced risk, wind threat 30% risk, and a hail threat of 15% risk. So tomorrow will be a big deal, and you can see what's going on here on the 500 millibar height chart right here. Ridging pretty much beginning to overspread this area, but a pulse of energy kind of embedded into the upper portion of this ridge. You see the white color. You see the buckle right into here of these pressure gradients as it buckles down right into here and they get closer to one another. That is indicating some type of low pressure at the surface, and then another one probably north of this region. And this flies down to this region, and this little basically pulse of energy that we can call moves into the region, provides the ingredients for strong to severe storms into this region tomorrow. I really think we'll have some big time storms tomorrow, but just this white area right here that you're seeing, this is what's going to do it tomorrow. So we'll start off tomorrow morning. We'll blast through this really quick. We're already waking up to a lot of heavy rain across Wisconsin. We already kind of talked about that. And then as the atmosphere really builds, this is when we watch for some damaging storms in Michigan, even down here into northern Indiana, and things like that. It definitely looks like Michigan is more active, but we got another 24 to 36 hours of model guidance to go through. So we'll talk about this tonight, keep you guys aware. God bless all y'all. Have yourselves a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.